I told you he was based. Okay, Björn Andreas Bullhansen, friend of the channel. He made a video titled, and I'm covering part of it, "They Don't Want You to Know About This." And it's talking about white slavery. From a Mediterranean man to a northern brother. The floor is yours.
Hi there and welcome to my local woods. Today I want to talk about a part of history that they don't want you to know about. Millions of people were stolen in Europe and brought to the caliphates, to the Muslim areas. And the Vikings were very active in that trade. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that here in this video. I want to make a campfire as well. But slavery is of course a very dark chapter in the story of mankind. And I think that we owe it to the victims to tell their story.
Absolutely. Good start. It is a chapter of mankind, isn't it? Because everyone enslaved everyone. Literally. This guy's legit.
Now, slavery was of course practiced by the Ottoman Empire, and we still have slavery today in Muslim countries. That is the sad truth. Now, I think that the story that some people out there, dare I say the establishment, want you to believe is that, you know, the white man is bad and that's pretty much it.
Damn straight. This is and has been absolutely one of the major talking points that we've been fighting against. And when I say we, I mean decent people that just want the truth. It's been years now. This idea that you have to paint white people and people of European descent and Europeans, like me, in general white people like in America, in Britain, as the oppressor, enough. Why don't we just learn to stop judging people by the color of their skin? And it is ironic that the very people that call you racist are the ones that are the most racist of all.
But slavery has been practiced by so many cultures up through history.
Absolutely.
And if we go back to, you know, the time between the 15th and 18th century, the Barbary pirates, they took slaves on the British Islands. Much more than 1 million. I think some people are saying 1.5 up to 2 million people were stolen. And I want to bring you even further back.
If you look at this map, you will see the two major Varangian trade routes. The one to the right is the Volga trade route, and this route was essential for trade during the Viking Age.
Now the Rus, they used that trade route to supply the Muslim merchants with slaves from Northern Europe. Mm-hmm. And here's something that most people don't know. Along that route, going to the Abbasid Caliphate and the Byzantine Empire, you had castration centers or stations where the male slaves were castrated. That was.
It's kind of like they did in China and produced the eunuchs. Whenever there is a power and an authority that does this, it's usually because they want to place those slaves, for instance, as servants of women of importance, wives or daughters. Usually, at least in China, that's why it happened. Some eunuchs, in fact, became quite powerful and prosperous. But, of course, it's a horrific thing. And believe it or not, and I'm going to say this, I know he's going to appreciate, because he's someone who can't stand bullshit, but I found a university professor, you understand the kind already, who was so focused on having to own the chuds and show the beauty of whatever the heck he was trying to push, that he literally talked about the eunuchs in China as an example of transgender people who were empowered. Empowered transgender people. Let me make this crystal clear. Eunuchs were victims It has nothing whatsoever to do with transgenderism and anything of the sort. Having clarified that nonsense. Did you notice that when he mentioned about people, he said they were stolen? He's talking about slaves, right? Again, a horrific aspect of human history. They did it in Africa, they did it in Asia, they did it in Europe, they did it everywhere. Everywhere. Ancient Rome, ancient Greece, now there are different types of slavery. Chattel slavery in the modern sense functions in one way, and it has some areas of overlap with slavery in classical antiquity. Ancient Egyptians had slaves as well, contrary to what some people are trying to push now, saying, no, people building the pyramids, there were no slaves. You're out of your mind. Of course, there were slaves, and there were also specialized workers. Regardless. Did you notice that he said that these people were stolen? And I think that that is the correct term to use. Why? Was simply because from the perspective of ancient period, I'm talking about classical antiquity a little bit, he'll have to tell me if this concept overlaps with the Viking Age. I'm not sure about that, so I look forward to see what you think about it, Björn. But from the perspective of the Romans, the slaves were talking tools. So they didn't see them as humans, they saw them as objects. So they're tools, but they can talk. But they're still tools. Now, the dehumanizing aspect of, for example, the perspective of the Romans towards other people, usually enemies, is not limited to slavery. Even from a civil perspective, the way they considered, for instance, barbarians in the far north, not all the way to Scandinavia, I'm talking about Germanic tribes and Celts, is that they would consider them as half beasts. That is, however, not a form of racism before anyone joins in and asks about that. It is a form of derogatory sentiment, but it's not necessarily racism because it's not an immutable characteristic, meaning that someone can be half a beast or a slave in this case, so they are a tool. But if said Celt gains citizenship, then he's a full human being now. And if the talking tools buy their own freedom or are freed, for instance, very common in ancient Rome because of the death of their master, then they're not tools anymore. So this is an interesting aspect of Roman mentality that is often different to the way racism in the modern sense functions. But when he said stolen rather than like kidnapped or taken away, it made me think of this.
It's a common practice. You would probably, or almost certainly, be castrated as a male slave in one of the caliphates. And the cruelty of that, it's almost hard to imagine. And how many people who died after that procedure, nobody knows. And nobody knows how many people were captured in Europe and brought as slaves to the Muslim caliphates. Nobody knows, but I think we're talking millions. Now here in Scandinavia you have places, several places actually, called Trelleborg, and that means slave castle.
Really?
In other words, it used to be, those places used to be slave markets.
Oh, of course I didn't understand is the word he used because I don't speak any Nordic languages, but now that I think about it, Boig of course sounds like Berg, which I can understand as a fortress or fortification. But the first word is clearly, it doesn't share roots etymologically with the word slave, but it probably does with the word thrall, because we do have that word in English. So Thrallberg will be an English adaptation of what he's saying. That's so cool. How did he say it?
In Scandinavia you have places, several places actually, called Trelleborg.
Trelleborg. I probably butchered it, but I do believe it's connected to Thrallberg.
And that means slave castle. In other words, it used to be, those places used to be slave markets. Hedeby or Haitabu was also a slave market. Not only a slave market, but it was a place where people traded with slaves, and many other places were used for that purpose as well. Now, why is this not taught in schools?
No, let me tell you why.
Why? Why is this essential part of European history not taught in schools, because it's not. As far as I know,
Same, yeah.
they don't teach this in school. They
Not even in Southern Europe, I'll give him my perspective as well. Never heard of it, to be honest. So these numbers, I mean, of course, I've heard of... I'm not into Muslim history myself, apart from auxiliary Islamic history, such as the, after the Reconquista, or like the expansion into the West in Spain, or, for instance, the contact because of the Crusades, of course, all of that. But deep Islamic history, I don't know much. It's outside of my area of expertise. But it's correct, this is not covered in regular, like, middle school, high school and whatnot.
teach about the transatlantic slave trade,
True.
but not about the slaves being stolen, the people being stolen and sold as slaves in Northern Europe and the entire Europe. Why is that not being taught in schools?
Very good point.
Are we talking white guilt here?
Nonsense.
I think we are. But I do believe that the truth is extremely important,
Absolutely.
and we must keep telling the truth. That's what I'm trying to do here on this channel. Now, of course, as a historical novelist, I deal with these topics every day. And as someone who is obsessed with the Viking Age, I also realize that many horrible things were done by my ancestors.
You see what I mean? It's a Nordic man who's obsessed with Viking history. Then you got an Italian here who's obsessed with Roman history. And for some reasons, the same people that push nonsense such as white guilt. At this point, it should be human guilt if we really want to put it that way. I still don't think that sons should be guilty for the sins of their fathers, but if you really want to go that way, it should be human guilt. But in general, not only, these same people are the ones that then want you to not be proud and in love with the history of your people. Nonsense. I think it's great that he reenacts it and he loves his connection and his tether to his ancestors. And that is a beautifully healthy state of mind. But he's not letting it obfuscate his desire for truth. If something that they did was bad, he calls it out. I told you.
Like participating in the North European and the European slave trade. Now, what I don't like is when people litter.
Yeah.
This is a tobacco box. I don't like that.
No.
I don't like it at all. So I'll bring that home. And I saw a beer can over there, so I'll bring that home as well. A few words about this channel. You will never see AI here.
Yeah, me neither.
I will keep things authentic and real and honest.
Preach it.
If you feel that that's important, please help this channel by subscribing and leave a comment.
Alright guys, I double down. Help this channel by subscribing his channel. Write a comment, leave him a comment. Go watch another video, because I kind of watched most of this video by now, because I think at the end he's not talking as much. But do go watch another video. So we give him I'll give him a like. Leave a comment on this one to help you with the engagement. And then possibly, if you have the time, I would really appreciate it. This really good friend of the channel at this point. Much respect for Bjorn. You should totally go and do that. Totally go and do that. So look at this. Let's pull up his Patreon. What has he got? Become a member, become a patron. Here he is. 800 members. We should totally help him hit 1,000 supporters on Patreon. He absolutely deserves it. Because I like that this guy, and it's funny because I've seen people telling me, oh no, but he had a bad take once. Okay. Doing better than me then. You know what I mean? That's the thing. It's like this guilt by association. He's a good man. You can tell he's a good man. And he likes truth. And he speaks facts. I appreciate that. Now, if there ever is a bad take, just like I have it, you know what I do? I talk to people. That's it. You know who else did it? Charlie Kirk. Thank you for watching. Thank you so much, Björn, for the video. Very much appreciated, brother. Have a good one. If you appreciate my content so far and wish to help ensure my ability to continue to tell it how it is, regardless of any possible backlash, please support this channel on Patreon. Any support helps me and my team of academics keep the channel strong and gives us the means to fight back against the political rewriting of history. Stand with us, form the wall, defend the truth.